Welcome to Unholy Vibes. I am here today with a special guest. This is my pal Cam, one of my oldest friends. We've been friends for pretty much half of our lives.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's saying something.
Sophomore year of high school, so it's been a minute.
Yeah, what is that, 2010?
About, yeah. Around that time.
So, yeah, 14 going on 15 years.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've been bothering Cameron here for a while about a story he has. He's agreed to come on the show. We got together. We just had a delicious dinner
So good.
and decided, hey, what's more fun after dinner when we're nice and full than going and sitting in a room in the dark and recording a ghost story or a horror story.
Spooky stories, yeah.
Yeah, spooky stories. So had dinner. We're back here. It took way too long to set up. You can see I'm not in my usual area. There is no typical recording room for me. We're in Cam's office room. Him and his wife share this space. So you'll see all their setup. They're gracious enough to let me record with them in their home. And here we are.
Happy to
Cam,
have you here.
I'm so happy to be here, Cam. So Cam, tell the people who you are and then let's dive in.
Yeah.
Spare no detail. And then if you could, I mean, you have one major story that I know of. If you have other little things or whatever's,
Okay.
let's do
Definitely.
like climax at the end.
Smaller ones first, big one later.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Even if it's not chronologically correct, that's how I want to do it because we like to make them wait. You're going to have to listen to the whole episode. And no, you can't just skip ahead and try and scrub and find where his best story is. You got to listen. And I know you will because you love me and I love you. Mwah. Okay, so go ahead, Cameron, please.
Hi, so my name's Cameron. I've known Alex since high school. Currently, I'm running a store for a smaller bakery cafe chain in Utah. That's pretty much what I do on a daily basis. Mostly just play some games, hang out with Alex, and occasionally share a scary story. So
Absolutely. And Cameron and I throughout the years have been big buddies in gaming. We play a lot of games together. During COVID, especially, we got into a game called Hunt. Cam, a couple other buddies, and myself played that an unhealthy amount.
Oh, yeah.
For like 3 years straight every day.
Yeah.
It was Yeah, it was awesome. And now it's dead to us, kind of, sort of. And for those of you watching, forgive me for looking 3 different places because I'm looking at us, looking at that, looking at you. For audio only folks, don't even worry about it. So anyway, Cam, give us some background, give us, the details, spare no detail.
Yeah.
And then I will try and save my questions for the end, but actually I won't.
I mean, ask away.
Yeah.
They're all good.
So start us with your least spooky, work towards your most spooky, and we'll go from there.
Okay, yeah. So I guess like general background, pretty much all of the stories are going to be happening during the time that I served a mission. I served in Monterrey, Mexico, one of my favorite cities now. I just love the people there. It was one of the better times of my life where I got to meet some really awesome people and have some pretty unpleasant experiences alongside that. A good place to start wasn't anything that I necessarily saw or even experienced firsthand, like in a major way, but it was probably, I'm trying to think where this was. My third area. It was called Valle Hermoso, which is beautiful valley in English. And me and my companion were just visiting a family that had a couple friends that were in the church, going to the church. And they were interested in learning more. It was our second visit with them. And they were sharing a story with us. We were sitting in the room where it happened. She was watching TV on her couch late at night, and she felt like she couldn't move. She felt frozen. It sounded similar to sleep paralysis. She was like awake, she couldn't move, but was like fully coherent. But she saw in the corner of the room next to the television these bright white eyes staring at her while she was watching TV. The TV was still on. She didn't remember falling asleep or dozing off. It felt like in the course of like watching TV. You know, it wasn't like she came to and it was like a different TV show or a different episode. In the course of it, she was telling us about this story with eyes staring at her from the corner. We were sitting in that same room where it happened, and she was like, yeah, like sometimes like it feels like cold there. Like there's like something else there. And she said that she experienced it a couple of times, not just once, but ever since the first incident, she would periodically see those white eyes in the same spot in the room. It was never anywhere else in the house. So she asked us to like say a prayer and like bless the house and everything, try to get that spirit out of there. But she said it never felt threatening, but it didn't feel friendly.
So while you were there, did you feel any
No.
off vibes?
No, this was before. At this point in my life, I was completely skeptical on any sort of hauntings or possessions. I had never experienced anything like that. She shared that story and I was like, oh yeah, I've heard that a bunch from like friends in high school. Didn't really make a lot of sense. I didn't really pay any attention to it. I did what they asked.
For their sake.
Yeah, it's for their sake. It made them feel better and safer in their own home. So I was like, why not?
I find it interesting that so many people of faith are skeptical of these kind of things. At the time of recording, I just released the episode that Jade was in. Jade was the same way. He was on his mission. He was very skeptical and never really, even after his mission, he was skeptical because he had one crazy experience, but it wasn't something that made any sense to him. After his mission, he had other things that broke his skepticism. I just find it interesting because I also served a mission, and I've had other people on that have served missions. I was never skeptical because in my mind, it's like, I believe in spirits. So why not something spooky, right? Why not a ghost or an evil spirit or something creepy in the corner? I was going to ask about sleep paralysis, but again, this whole thing being she didn't fall asleep and then wake up because you like know when that happens. Like you're just like, oh, you kind of come to, and sleep paralysis, like you come to, but you're like, I can't move. This is terrifying, whatever.
Yeah.
But the fact that she was like, I was just awake and it was late and there's eyes in the corner, that's some spooky imagery.
I've only experienced sleep paralysis once a couple years ago, but like I do like distinctly like waking up. I was like, oh, like I'm awake and I can't move. I didn't like see anything. I started hyperventilating because I had never experienced it before. It was pretty scary.
I've had it happen one time, but it was very brief. I thought I was going to die.
Oh, I gave my wife a heart attack. She thought I was dying. When I finally got out of it, I was freaking out. It probably wasn't a fun time for her. She probably thought I was like possessed or something. But
not fun.
It was just a little touch of sleep paralysis.
Okay.
Nothing too spooky.
Did you ever follow up with them about this? Anything like that? Or was it just kind of done?
They eventually ghosted us, pun intended, I guess.
Heyo.
But no, didn't really follow up on any of that. The next time we saw them after that, they said they felt better, you know. They said they hadn't experienced it, but it was only like a couple days after. Didn't have a long passage of time.
So you were in Monterrey.
Yeah.
Monterrey. So I've talked about this before. The farther south you get, the more occurrences like this happen. There's just a lot of power and belief and superstition. I served my mission in Texas. Our missions bordered each other. They actually touched each other, geographically speaking.
You've never been far apart.
That's true. Even on our missions, we're like, I'm within a couple 100 miles. I served my mission in Texas, and I actually had a family one time, similar situation, but it wasn't like something so spooky. It was, my daughter is seeing orbs, like black and white orbs. So like she got up in the night to go to the bathroom or something in the house. Yeah, the kids were seeing them. The adults didn't. But the adults, this was a Hispanic family. They believed their children. A lot of times parents are like, it's not, you're dreaming or whatever, right? And they just miss it. But I think because they were actually a Mexican family, Hispanic, whatever you want to call it, they were inclined to believe this story. The kids were actually scared. It seemed different than the whole, there's a monster in my closet or the boogeyman's under my bed. This felt very much like, I saw these things, the vibe is off. And so similar thing, can you please pray or bless the house or whatever? Yeah. And it never came up again. I should have followed up, I guess. But that is interesting. And I would love to know more about this person. Like, why do you think this was happening to you? Yeah. Or what do you think this was? If it was real.
I mean, it certainly sounds like sleep paralysis, you know, like seeing, like not being able to move, seeing things. But the fact that she was very like adamant that she's like, I didn't fall asleep. I just suddenly, while watching TV by myself, couldn't move. I haven't really experienced a ton of these sorts of things myself. So I guess I don't want to speak to anyone else's experiences or speculate on what it could or couldn't be. But if it is a spirit of some sort, My only question about it would be, why was it only in one spot in the house?
Right.
It wasn't like the house was haunted. It was like the corner of the house was haunted. So, like,
Underneath the house is burial ground, but just
maybe.
that corner was
Yeah.
over the burial ground. The rest is in the yard. And it's
Somebody
fine.
died in a chair in the corner of the room or something.
I mean, that's an interesting one to be like, it's just a pair of white glowing eyes in the corner. That's creepy. Maybe there was just a reflection of something like
Maybe.
in glass in the corner.
Maybe.
Well,
I mean, the corner of the room was empty. There was a fern, but there wasn't shelves or a case, no chairs, just plant. So,
interesting. Okay.
not sure what that could have been, but
yeah, for those listening, watching, whatever, speculate with us.
yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Let's on to the next.
Another one, not one that I experienced directly myself, but he was by far my favorite companion. He was from Honduras. He was a really big believer in the spiritual, even to the point of skinwalkers.
I want to believe in skinwalkers so badly, by the way.
There's so many stories from so many different, like,
Cool, terrifying.
terrifying.
I've heard a lot of stories from a handful of people, all walks of life. It makes me think, dang, I need to get a first-hand account. I have one or two potentially lined up, but anyway, who cares about that?
But he was
not skeptical, is what you're saying.
Yeah, not skeptical. He was like a full-on believer in all of this. But he grew up on, like, teeny little village outside in Honduras. And it was, I know Honduras is still a dangerous place to live now, but it was like a time where it was even more dangerous. There's a lot of people in his immediate family had been, like, killed or murdered over certain things. Just
no thanks.
Yeah. But he had moved, him and his remaining family had moved into, like, a more rural area. They had animals. They had, like, cows and stuff. And in the middle of the night, he would hear, like, scratching on, like, the windows and doors. Like something was trying to get in, but they would, like, go out and investigate the next day. The animals were all fine. They never heard, like, anything else besides just scratching on the doors. Like,
no chupacabra action where they're eating your sheep.
Yeah, like, nothing, like, getting killed, nothing like that. But yeah, he said it would, like, go on for, like, years. Like, they would just hear scratching on the doors and windows for years. They'd try to figure out what it was, couldn't figure it out. Eventually, one night, he said he was like 15 or 17, woke up to scratching on his window. He saw a man standing in his window, and he, like, couldn't quite, like, make out, like, exactly what he looked like. It was dark, but he saw, like, the silhouette of a man. He jumped out of bed, ran and told his dad. His dad went out to investigate, and they couldn't find anything. And then shortly after that, they would find, it was like a coyote that was just, like, wandering around just by itself. It would sit in the distance to watch him. Since he was already, I guess, into the idea of, like, skinwalkers, he, like, believed in that kind of stuff, he just assumed that the coyote was the man in his window. But it would just, like, sit at a distance and watch him, apparently, all the time. In broad daylight, sitting about 800 meters away from the house, just staring. Even if I hadn't seen a man in my window and I hadn't been scratching at night, just one coyote sitting that far away, just staring at you for, like, weeks at a time is already terrifying enough.
The man would have been game over for me. I'd be like, we're moving. I don't care what it takes. We're gone.
Oh, yeah. No, like, superstition would ever make me feel comfortable with a man standing in my window.
Seriously, jeez.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Anytime someone says I actually saw this figure or whatever, it doesn't sit well with me.
He said that the coyote eventually just stopped. Like, he just didn't see it at some point. It was after a couple of years of this going on.
A good secondhand story for sure.
Yeah. I've always found that one interesting because I would want the idea of a skinwalker to be real. It's so, like, fascinating.
Terrifying.
I think it's fascinating.
It is fascinating, but also, like, I've never heard a cool, fun story about running with a skinwalker.
Sure. Okay. Understand.
They're like, no, the skinwalker came and gave me gifts and blessed me. It's always like, it tried to get into my house to murder me. So, yes, fascinating. I'm about cool. It's cool when you think of it as pure fiction. Once you add, like, maybe it is something, maybe it is real, because there's a whole culture that definitely, like, believes it. Oh, yeah. It's not a joke. You do not talk about it. You don't joke about it.
Very taboo.
And then there's a bunch of white people that got really interested in it and, have full podcast about it. Let's keep going.
Those are the only two smaller ones I remember enough to give a decent accounting of it. My big story, the one that really...
The one we're here for.
Yeah, the one we're here for.
To preface
Yes.
this really quick.
Uh-huh.
So Cameron and I served missions basically at the same time. He got home about a month before I did. When I got home, we were hanging out. We never really brought up spooky stuff because I wasn't really into the scary spooky like I am now. It didn't come up for a while where I was like, hey, did you ever experience anything?
I also, I avoided talking about this for a really long time because it just didn't sit right with me for the longest time. In fact, I don't think I've ever really told more than like 6 or 7 people.
You've told me a quick version.
Yeah. But I guess we're going to get super into the weeds on it now. But
That's what we're here for.
I probably didn't want to share it with you at a certain point because it really unsettled me. And it, like, to this day, it still kind of freaks me out just like talking about it. There's some things that change how you view the world. And
It was a paradigm shift.
Yeah, it was a paradigm shift, definitely. Because, I was super skeptical on all of this stuff. Didn't believe that. I was like, oh, yeah, it's just like people see and experience things and try to like find a way to make it make sense. They create stories in their head about it.
And there's people I've met exactly like that. They're like, they're so anti like anything supernatural. They're atheists in all directions.
Yeah.
There's nothing here, nothing there. Anything you experienced is your brain playing a trick on you or something. There's a logical explanation for everything. And maybe there is, that's fine. It's still fun and entertaining. But when you are there and it's happening to you, I think no matter how skeptical you are, when you experience something like this, you can't help but say, well, I might be wrong.
Yeah, and this was definitely that moment for me. Like I left the house changed and honestly mortified. I took the rest of the day off. But I guess to start the story, I was in my 4th area and I was with my least favorite companion. I won't give any details on him. I don't want him to know that I didn't like him all that much. But we were the zone leaders in the area at the time. So we had like extracurricular responsibilities besides just, visiting people and teaching them. You had other people that reported to you that you were responsible for. We had a set of sister missionaries in our area. Oh man, I forgot a certain aspect of the story, which is another reason why I didn't end up liking this companion all that much, but we'll touch on that in a second. These sister missionaries called us and asked me and my companion to go over to one of their investigators' homes. We were in neighboring areas. We were relatively close at the time. So they asked us to walk over and give a blessing to somebody in the family they said they weren't feeling well. By the time we got there, the sister missionaries were waiting outside of the house. They didn't want to go back in without me and my companion, and they didn't give us hardly any detail of what was actually happening at the moment. But one of the sister missionaries informed me that they thought that the daughter in the family was possessed.
Yay.
Yeah, and I had never, again, super skeptical at the time, hadn't experienced anything before. I kind of rolled my eyes and was like, whatever, no big deal. This was never like, but I was like, okay, I'll probably just go in there, give them a blessing. Everyone will feel, kumbaya about it. We'll go on our merry way.
Get in, get out, call it a day.
Get in, get out, call it a day.
But this was not the case.
This is not the case. The second I stepped into the house, I felt like a weight on my chest, like I had never felt before in my life. I thought for a second I was having a heart attack at the ripe old age of, I was 20 at the time.
Really? It was that intense?
Yeah, like it felt painful, like it hurt to be there. I had never experienced anything like that. And the mom of the family came over, pulled us aside, and told us what was going on, told us her daughter's name. Apparently, she had been dating this young man who was in the home at the time. He was in the room with the daughter. She would go into violent fits, throw stuff, break stuff, try to attack people in the house whenever her boyfriend wasn't there.
How old was she again?
She was probably around the age of 13 to 15. I can't remember 100%.
But younger teen.
Younger teen, yeah.
And had a very strong attachment to this boyfriend.
Yeah. So we walked into the room and the weight that I felt on my chest worsened. Like, it felt like I was lying on my back and somebody was standing on my chest. That's the kind of pressure I was feeling. I immediately left the room. I was like, hey, I need to call somebody. I called my mission president because I had never experienced anything like this before, and I was scared out of my mind. I had never felt like that kind of fear over anything. So I called him, and I was like, I have no clue what I'm doing here. I thought we'd be able to handle this, and I'm freaking out right now. He tried to calm me down and reassure me. He's like, hey, you have the priesthood, you have the authority. You can go in there, you can take care of this, you can do it. And I was like, okay, that's not nearly the amount of advice I was looking for. I was looking for way more. I wanted a handbook on like what to do in these situations.
Because there's not really protocol for this.
No.
You would think so, but
Yeah.
I think in general, any religion as a whole, exorcisms and possessions, things like that are not common across any religion, from my understanding. I mean, this is a dumb reference, but this is just what's coming to mind. You watch the movie The Conjuring with Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Yeah.
And even their whole job is to prove that something's not really happening.
Right.
Or just to say that it is, and then be like, they have to go through several processes of approval. And then the church is like, okay, this is the Catholic Church they're working for. It's like, okay, we'll send someone out now because you've investigated. There's a whole process, apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works in the LDS Church.
Yeah.
And we're both members, been members our entire life. I've only heard of one other time that I can remember off the top of my head of a possession. One in 31 years, other than this story right here. It was a member of one of my old wards that I lived in Oregon. As a missionary, you have a handbook. It's about basic safety rules. The white handbook. There's no, hey, if you run into a possessed person or someone you think is possessed, so you talk to your mission president. He's like, just go do a blessing. I think maybe from his perspective, you have the authority, just go there, use it, and it'll be done. Because in the LDS Church, it is very black and white like that. If there's an evil spirit, cast it out. It's not like the movies where you have to battle this spirit and throw holy water and read a bunch of verses from the Bible. It's just like you use the name of Jesus, go on Git, and it's done. Like,
I had heard a story that I honestly feel like was a little bit BS. They had called the bishop, and the bishop called the stake president, and things were moving in the house. And I was like, okay, that's not what I experienced at all. But what I experienced, honestly, terrified me more. It was more haunting than stuff moving.
Okay, that story you think was BS.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, who knows? We don't know the extent, because again,
Reliable narrator, you know.
Okay, that too. And going back to the point of these things are so rare across the board that, like, what are the odds? And so your mission president says, just go do it. But in the face of this situation, it's different than just, it's easier said than done.
And especially when it's something you've never felt before. It's an unnatural, uneasy feeling. It's an unholy vibe.
Thank you. Myself. Shameless plug.
But yeah,
and you're 20. So it's
I'm
like, hey,
20.
20-year-old, just go do this.
Just go cast out a potential, evil spirit. We'll get into the details. After the phone call, I hang up and talk to my companion. We're still outside, by the way. I haven't stepped back inside the house. I want to spend as little time in there as I possibly can. So we walk in there. I walk over to my companion before we go back in the house. President Bird wants us to go in there and give him a blessing. And my companion said, no way. Yeah. He said, I'll be in the room, but I'm not touching her.
Wow.
So he had felt the exact same thing. He had felt uneasy, the pressure, just fear. And he was a big believer in all this stuff. So it was something that he recognized immediately and was just like, no, I'm not doing it. Which is great, because then I had to do it by myself. It made the task even more daunting than it had already felt.
Yeah.
After he says he's not going to participate, he's not going to help me out, I said, super cool, appreciate it. We walk back inside. Immediately upon walking in the door, you feel it again. It's like immediate. It's like you got hit by a brick. We make our way back into our room. Her boyfriend's in there. I wasn't wearing a shirt, and this was a notable detail to me. And not to get too in the weeds on any of this, but for people who don't know, there's a pretty unpopular saint that some people in the Catholic Church worship, especially in Latin America, called the La Santa Muerte, and it's the Holy Death. And typically the depiction of it is the Grim Reaper, which is hooded skeleton figure, But the Catholic Church did not condone the saint. They said that you're not supposed to like participate in this, not supposed to be part of your family. I'm not entirely sure why it had like so much prevalence. I never got super into the weeds on it, but he had a giant Santa Muerte tattoo.
How old was this guy compared to
He
this
was
young
probably
teen?
16, 17. He was a little bit older.
Okay.
Yeah. But he had a big old Santa Muerte tattoo like on his back. And that was a pretty, like, I made note of it. It's not like I asked him to leave or anything. He was in the room with her. She was laying on the bed, pretty much unconscious. Eyes closed, sweating, looked like she had a really, really bad fever. So her mom comes into the room with me, the sister missionaries, and my companion who was standing in the corner, being as helpful as he possibly could be, just standing in the corner doing nothing. So I walk over with the mom to get, like, lift the daughter up so I could give her the blessing. On lifting her up, she wakes up, her eyes open, and she looks at me and like got like this super serious, super somber look on her face, just like no, like isn't like dazed or confused, is like snaps into like this like state of like coherency. And she looks at me and she starts talking to me in English. Yeah. And she's a 14-year-old girl. No one in her family speaks English. No one in her family could have taught her English. She starts talking to me. She speaks to me using my first name. She calls me Cameron. Not Elder Collins, not like what's on my name tag. She calls me Cameron, which she had no way of knowing. And she starts telling me things about myself. Things that I know about myself. Like, not anything about something that I wasn't aware of or like pre-life or anything like that. Things, she was bringing up things I had done in the past to try to make me feel unworthy to give her a blessing. Like mistakes I've made, sins I have committed. In English to my face, a 14-year-old girl in the middle of Monterrey, Mexico. Yeah. And it immediately took me out of it. I was beside myself. I stepped back and I said, I need to take a minute. No one else in the room spoke English. It was just me and her.
So even the sisters were both native.
Yes, sisters are both native. Neither of them spoke English. One of them was the Dominican Republic. She could understand things, but they all looked mortified. They knew she was speaking to me in English. They couldn't understand what she was saying, but they obviously recognized what English sounds like. So I go over and I talk to him, and I said, I don't know if I can do this. This is way above anything I was expecting to experience today, especially since the sister missionaries hadn't given us a heads up before that we were gonna, try to perform an exorcism.
Not cool, sisters. That's so messed up to say, hey, can you come give a blessing?
Yeah.
This person's sick. And they had to have known there was more going on.
Yeah, like they were waiting outside the house when we got there. They felt it. They didn't want to be in there. They knew what was going on. It just didn't care to share that with us.
Ooh. Yeah, take a deep breath, everyone.
Yeah. So the sister missionaries kind of like helped me calm down, reassure me. They're like, you can do this. You got this. And I go back over there, and the daughter is again feverish. She looks like she's out of it again. But for like a minute, 2-minute period, she was just talking to me in English, fully coherent, telling me things about myself and calling me by my name. So after that, I go and I put my hands on her head and I give her a blessing, the normal spiel you've probably done it 1,000 times. Shortly after I finish the blessing, nothing happens during the blessing. Like I still have the feeling in my chest, my voice is shaking because I'm scared, I'm terrified. And about halfway through, I start feeling better. Like the feeling's going away, I'm speaking with more confidence. Like I'm not shaking as much. I finished the blessing. Shortly after, she lays back down. The feeling in the house is like better. It's not significantly better. You still feel the pressure on your chest. The air is stuffy and hot. That could have been because we're in the middle of Mexico during the middle of the summer. But yeah, I finished the blessing. Shortly after, we sit down, talk with the mom a little bit. I share my suspicions that the boyfriend might have something to do with it. Especially she says that when he's there, she's like out of it. She like doesn't do anything, but when he leaves, she can get violent. So that's why I was like, that's probably my suspicion.
Connects the dots,
Yeah.
Mom.
Is that he probably shouldn't be around. The sister missionary reported back to us 2-3 days after, saying that the problem was persisting and that the boyfriend was still around. I told him I'm more than happy to go back and do a blessing as long as the boyfriend isn't in the picture anymore, because it just doesn't really seem to have an effect if they keep inviting that into their home, whatever was causing those issues. You have to get out of the mud before you can get clean, you know?
Using that analogy, if they're standing in the pit and you're hosing them off, that's great for a temporary fix, but they're still covered in mud. I'm sure what you did was a temporary relief and help to the problem. But like you said, with the boyfriend coming back consistently, if that was the issue, which probably was, but we don't know for sure, then obviously they're just going to keep diving back in. Who knows what he was doing? Who knows what they were doing together? If it was all him bringing something in, or if they were doing an activity, maybe they were playing with a Ouija board together. I wish we knew.
Yeah.
I wish we could follow up with them today and say, hey, what's going on?
Whatever happened?
Yeah.
I would never want to go back to that house. Like, whenever I talk about it, I start feeling shaky and uneasy. To this day.
Even for me, I've heard the story, but being in it in the moment, you're just like, there's no words.
It was something that was so beyond me, like being able to rationalize it. There is a 14-year-old girl in the middle of Monterrey, Mexico, who knows intimate details about my life.
Just the fact that she knew your first name.
Yeah.
That's not common for people to know a missionary's first name. It's
Yeah.
elder or sister. Ooh.
Yeah.
So what?
That's the story.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone, take a deep breath. I hope you enjoyed this. But let me ask you a couple of questions here. So, what was your recovery like after this? How, like, you were just shaken to your core.
Oh, yeah. I called the mission president afterwards, and it was like, I did the blessing. We felt better. I'm going home. I told him, like, I felt uneasy. I felt, like, sick almost.
Did you tell him what happened, though? Like, the details? Interesting.
Yeah. I didn't want to. It was things that I had already addressed with either him or, like, my bishop. It wasn't anything that I felt like I still needed to go through. I didn't tell him about her speaking to me in English. I imagine to this day the only people that know that are the handful of people I've told and the handful of people that are in that room.
And now everyone listening here.
Now everyone listening.
I don't know what everyone believes who listens. I know everyone has their different beliefs, but our Venn diagram basically overlaps for the most part on our belief scam. And Christianity as a whole, when there's a possession, there's a devil involved.
Yeah.
Leave it to the devil to try and make you feel a certain way about past mistakes and try and dig nonsense up in a current moment, even though it's already been dealt with.
Yeah.
Like, what a low blow.
Yeah. It would have been one thing if the little girl spoke to me in Spanish and said all the same things that would have struck me as still as, like, terrifying and still as, like, super unsettling to go through. But, yeah. Like a gift of tongues moment, but, like, the curse of tongues, I guess, because it was really at my detriment.
Here's the thing. You gave the blessing.
Yes.
And there was an effort to keep you from giving the blessing.
Yeah.
Or to shake you. And you still did it anyway. And I'm sure, again, it was a help. And maybe it opened the parents' eyes to be like, maybe we shouldn't let this dude around our child.
Maybe.
That's wild. Wow. That's my first legit possession story, I think. I've had a handful.
First?
Don't say it like that. Okay, Cameron, I am so grateful for you coming on and recording, and I'm sure the people are going to love this story. Do you have any other little tidbits you want to share? Any speculations, or that's pretty much it?
I mean, that's pretty much it. I wouldn't want to speculate too much. The mom obviously seemed like a very devout Catholic, but I guess no one, like, in her church would, like, come visit her daughter about it.
Interesting.
So that's why she felt the need to reach out to another church to try to find some sort of, like, solution or solace. But yeah, it had been going on for weeks at that point by the time I had gone there and met the family. So
Poor girl.
I know.
This is a common, not super common, but it comes up like, is it possession? Is it mental illness?
Yeah.
Is it drugs? Who knows, right? But mental illness and drugs or whatever don't make someone who doesn't speak English speak English.
Yeah.
It doesn't give them names, intimate details. That's
Yeah.
too supernatural. I don't
Yeah.
try and reconcile that in your mind however you want. I choose to believe there were other powers at play there. So that is wild, and I hope you never have to run into anything like that again.
I hope I never do either. It's not a good time.
No.
0 out of 10.
You're helping someone, but also it's like, ooh, you know.
Yes.
Well, shoot. Thank you, Cameron. Everyone, thank you for listening. As always, if you or anyone you know has any spooky stories, possession stories, or it doesn't have to be that. It can be anything. It could be you were chased by a killer, stalker, whatever. Aliens. Hey, we're on the hunt for a skinwalker story, or skinwalker story.
If you know.
So if you have any, hit me up. You can reach me on Instagram or TikTok at Unholy Vibes Pod, or you can email unholyvibespod@gmail.com. Please reach out. Give me all the deets. I'm in it for the love of the game. I want more. Remember, everyone, stay spooky. Thank you for listening. This has been Unholy Vibes. We'll see you next time.